You're in a foreign jail. You don't really understand the rules. Did you have fear for your life?
I had a Colt 45, a stun gun, samurai swords. It was just ridiculous. Something told me to go to the door and have a little look. It wasn't right. You know something's not right.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right.
These armed men running up the stairs, and they weren't dressed in police attire, but I knew straight away they were undercover. And I shut the door and I panicked and I grabbed the pillows and I grabbed the cannabis and I shoved them where the sun doesn't shine. And I sat with me back to the door and I looked around, I scanned the room and I thought, oh my God, there's a gun on the table there, there's weapons, what am I going to do? This was a small prison, Chiang Mai, and it had 4,000 inmates. So you can imagine this was like 70 to a cell. I'd witnessed a few horrible things in there, people getting raped. That was a regular occurrence, people committing suicide was another thing. You'd walk past the cell and you'd see, someone hanging off the bars. And what the mad thing was, they used to have like a 24-hour watch in the cell. Yeah. And that was one of the rules, you couldn't commit suicide. They had I think it was 10 to 12 rules that they'd shout over the tannoy. No stealing, no sexual intercourse, no suicide. I thought, well, fucking hell, this is mad, this other guy's on him and he starts stabbing him. But it's like, and it wasn't like in a frenzy. It was like cold and calculated and there were death shots.
The I Catch Killers podcast was a fresh start for me as I left policing behind and started a new life. Over the years, we've laughed together, cried and shared some powerful moments. Welcome to I Catch Killers. Welcome back to part 2 of my chat with Englishman Billy Moore. Billy's had an interesting life to say the least. He spent 18 years in prison in the UK and Thailand and survived some of the most brutal prisons in the world, I'd have to say. Now, his story is also featured in a major film. In part 1, we talked to Billy about his life, what led up to him living in Thailand, and we just got to the point where his life was starting to spiral out of control. He'd been clean for a number of years. A couple of things on the emotional front with a relationship sort of steered him in a direction where he fell back into the addiction to drugs and his life started to unravel. Billy, let's take it up to when it really did unravel, when you get a knock at the door or you get locked up. What happened?
I was getting really in deep now with this drug dealing. I was making loads of mistakes. I was buying phones because I was paranoid that people were listening to me. I started to really get paranoid on this drug, this yabba. I'd have a room full of weapons and no enemies. I'd lost loads of weight. I was a big lad when I went out there, and then I lost loads of weight to look like an anorexic panda. And I could probably hang glide off a Dorito. I was that skinny. So it was like, but I still thought to look good,
Yeah.
Still thought to look great. And, made the error of, I wouldn't say I made the error, it was just I was refusing to give people strap, which is tech. People want drugs on until they can get paid.
Yeah,
these are mostly they were Thai boxers that I'd befriended. That I was training with in the past, and there was this one guy who used to give all the time, but he'd never pay. And the last time he asked me, I said no, I'm not giving you none. And then he phones me up, like I don't even know what time it was. It just answers my phone. It must have been 10 a.m. I could, the sun was coming through the blinds. I could, the room was light and shining up. And I remember him saying to me on the phone, Billy, I have your shoes, your training shoes. They're in my taxi because he had a tuk-tuk. I was like, yeah. I was half asleep. He went, I bring them to you. I went, okay. He said, where are you? So I told him where I was, what apartment I was in. And put the phones on. The minute I put the phones on, I was like, why has he rang me?
Yeah.
Why does he want to go out of his way to bring me something? What's his motive? And I looked around the room and he had cannabis there, he had a room full of weapons, like I said. I had a Colt 45, a stun gun, samurai swords. It was just ridiculous. Yabba pills. And something told me to go to the door and have a little look. It wasn't right. When something's not right.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right.
I looked out and I seen these armed men running up the stairs. And they weren't dressed in police attire, but I knew straight away they were undercover.
Yeah.
Police. and I shut the door and I panicked and I grabbed the pillows and I grabbed the cannabis and I shoved them where the sun doesn't shine. And I sat with me back to the door and I looked around and scanned the room and I thought, oh my God, there's a gun on the table there, there's weapons, what am I going to do? I don't want to end, this is going to end like really messy. And they were banging on the door and I was stalling. There was no way out the room. I was on the fourth floor. There was no windows to escape from in the back way. The only window was onto the veranda where they were standing. So they were, please, please, please. So I was like, can you prove it? Can you show me any ID? And a card slid under the door. I didn't even have to look at it. I knew they were police anyway. I don't know why I was trying to stop. I don't know what I was doing, trying to grab a few more moments. There was nothing I could do. So I opened the door as they had to. They rushed me. They were on the floor. They attacked me, put me in a position where they put cuffs on me. You know, give me a few slaps, and then started going around the room searching it, picking things up, looking for drugs. Where the drugs? Where's this? Where's that? They didn't find any drugs. They found a lot of paraphernalia. But there was no drugs visible. I said, oh, they're gone. I used them, I smoked them. He pulled out the gun. He started picking up these mobile phones. I didn't know what was getting done in the background. I just got, in the end, taken down these steps, marched into this courtyard and put into this police van and taken to the local police station, put in this cell, and that was that. You know, I was in there for 3 days.
When were you taken out to the prison? What's the processes? You kept in custody with the police. When did you end up in the prison?
So what happened, right, was when I was in the police van, I was explaining to see what happened to me. I tell you now, I went on a visa run to Laos.
Right.
You've got to go out the country. You know,
leave the country, you come back. Yeah.
Every 3 months, you can go on a visa run once a month to Burma, Myanmar, or wherever, just to get a stamp, come back in, bang bang. You can do that for 3 months, but after 3 months, you got to leave the country. So I had to leave the country for 2 days and come back to get a 3-month visa. So I went to Laos, Luang Prabang, left the country on a Friday, was coming back on a Monday. By coming back on a Monday, I'd have a 3-month visa. I didn't have to go to the borders every month. But on the Friday was, I thought I'll buy me Yabba pills over here because they're cheaper. So I bought a load of Yabba pills. I had a little bit of opium that I bought as well. I was smoking that. I thought that was cannabis at the time. I thought it was soft black, but it wasn't. It was opium. I didn't understand. And I was on a bike that I'd rented because I was quite used to renting little Hondas. I was driving on the wrong side of the road and I heard this whistling. A couple of girls standing on the corner, they were whistling. And, hey there, sexy man. I looked. You know, by the time I looked back, there was 2 taxis heading my way. I never had the time to stop. There was a collision, I was heading into it. They've hit me, the bike I was on went in, it just flew right in the air. It's landed on my chest. The chassis broke me ribs, punctured me lung. I've had the handlebar go right through my stomach.
Ouch.
The side, I mean, literally go through my stomach. You know, I couldn't breathe. And I remember these Laotians trying to pick me up and put salt water down my throat and, you know, do things to me. And I'm like, what's going on here? What the fuck are they doing here? And then I heard this Irish accent saying, leave him alone, I'll help him, leave him alone. And he put me in this wheelbarrow. That was it. He said, get him liberty to get him to hospital. He put me in a wheelbarrow. There was blood pouring out of everywhere. I was rushed miles away, you know, by this guy who pushed me all the way. Taking out this wheelbarrow, put into this hospital, put on a mattress on the floor in this bare hospital with no IT equipment whatsoever. I had this doctor with a bloodstained jacket, clipboard and a pen with these 2 soldiers standing there with banana clips, taking pictures of me. And I was thinking, what's going on? I couldn't breathe. That was what I was like. Right. I got pushed onto my side. And then all of a sudden, I had a big gust of air coming into my lungs. It must have removed like a bone from me lung at the time. and I could breathe. And I said to the sergeant, "Shall I get me out of here?" Because what was going through my mind, I had 1,000 yabba pills in my pocket, and I was thinking, these two soldiers are here. They're here for a reason. I was getting paranoid, as you can imagine. They weren't there. They were just there because they had to make sure I was okay. I was a foreign national. Just didn't say to you nothing, but that was what was going on in my mind. And he got me to his apartment in Laos because he was a teacher over there, supported me until in the morning. I was in a mess. I was in a really bad state. Took me to the local coal station on a Monday, and I left the country and went to Chiang Mai and stayed in hospital there for 3 months. So yeah, I was in a bad place before I went to prison.
So and those injuries hadn't fully recovered?
No. I ended up having 2 surgical operations in a Thai prison.
Jesus, that's not
whilst
what
I was there.
Want. Okay, so you banged up that the bike accident before, you're locked up now.
Yeah.
You've they've got you with phones and weapon or whatever. What sort of time were you realistically looking at doing?
See, I had no idea. Really, I had no idea. I had like images of like imagining myself doing like 10 to 15, maybe, that kind of double figures. The process of going from the police station to court took about 3 days. I went to court. I was taken into a courtroom with about a dozen other Thai inmates all stood in the same dock. Yeah. While one judge, by the way, was like speaking to each individual. Said something to me. I went back down. Didn't understand the words. Got taken to Chiang Mai Central Prison on this bus with these other inmates, and introduced into the prison establishment. Strip searched, having to shower in front of these prison officers with a bowl on the whistle. The whistle's going. You're putting bowls of water on you. You're washing yourself down. It was late. It was about 9 o'clock at night by this time. Then we had to squat on the floor, and 4 of us had to share a bowl of rice and some meal that we couldn't even describe, and it stunk. It was cold, and there was flies hovering above it. It was horrible, and it was stinking, and I couldn't stomach it. And then we were like marched into this cell block, the induction cell. That's when, like I said in part 1, I had to sleep next to this guy who died, and this lady boy called Tiffany, who had these big massive breasts and this boob tube which said "No money, no honey."
And they're all part of the prison. They're inmates in there as well, the lady boys. So
yeah, they were all part of the prison. There was quite a few of them in there at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a freaky experience, to say the least.
When you say freaky, it sounds like it's a horror experience going in there, and it's something completely foreign, an environment that's foreign to you. But also, you would be standing out. There wouldn't be that many foreigners in there, and everyone, you know your way around prison. You don't show weakness. You're in a foreign jail. You don't really understand the rules. Did you have fear for your life? Like, I don't think I'm being too dramatic there. Did you wonder whether you're going to survive?
Plenty of times. I mean, it was. I was like a rebel without a cause, and I'm very reactive, and if you're speaking to me in machine gun Thai and there's venom in it, I react because I don't like to back down. I've been bullied, like I said, from an early age growing up, and I wasn't taking it no more. So, I'd come to a point where I stood, my ground with anyone, couldn't care who you was. But that was the problem with me. I went in, I observed the environment, kept quiet.
Yeah.
Sussed the situation out first, see what was going on. Found it to be, it was just packed. It was like going to a football stadium.
Yeah.
Everywhere you walked, there was queues. There was it was that overwhelmed with inmates.
The magnitude of how many inmates are in there, Billy? How many in Chiang Mai?
So this was a small prison, Chiang Mai, and it had 4,000 inmates.
Yeah, so that's a big prison in any for over here or over in the UK. That's
yeah. Well, the biggest prison in Europe was HMP Liverpool.
Yeah.
And that held 1,500 inmates, and that was
Yeah.
a massive. It still is a massive prison.
Yeah.
So you can imagine this was like 70 to a cell.
And
78 to a cell.
I was reading something that there was. I'm just looking at the dimensions. You're talking about a cell 25 foot by 15 feet, which is 4 metres by say 3 metres, and 80 prisoners. That type of dimension.
So that you have to sleep in rows of 3.
What do you mean?
Right.
Explain.
So it'd be like the top, the middle, and the bottom.
Ah, right. Okay. Yep.
In rows. So you'd be. You'd have someone's arms and legs wrapped around you. You'd wake up and there'd be someone hugging you. It'd be like, oh, what's going on? It was odd, you know what I mean? You had no escape. And the worst thing was, right, if you had to go to the toilet early hours, you've got to step over. It was like playing a fucking game of trying to find a gap, because you had to step over these bodies to get to the lavatory. And it was I remember standing on a few fucking people's feet and arms and heads, you know what I mean? But not one of them react and kick off, which was I think they were all understanding of, like,
I suppose accustomed to it. But
we know it's lazy.
Just on that, surviving and going to the toilet, I imagine the food that you're eating wouldn't be agreeing with your stomach much, so there would have been a lot of sickness there from you. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, diarrhea.
Yeah.
Vomiting, and I remember, like, the toilets, you got 80 people, by the way, in the cell, like I said, 70, 80 people.
Yeah.
And you've got to sit on a toilet with, like, them all looking at you.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're standing there and they're talking to you while you're like, oh, this is embarrassing, you know what I mean? Like, this is the height of self-obsession.
Yeah, yeah.
They're all talking, hey, falang, keep in now. I'm alive, ooh. And, like, they're speaking to you in this language that you've got no idea what they're saying, and you just think, look, go away, mate. I just want to use the toilet in peace here, but you can't. You've got a bin next to the toilet, which everyone washes their arse with, brushes the teeth with, washes the plates with, all the utensils that they've got. And you think, fucking hell, this is disgusting, you know what I mean?
Well, I know what you mean, just the way you're describing it. So what attitude did you hold to survive in there? Like, you said you'd arc up, like you wouldn't take shit from anyone. Is that...
No.
You suss the situation out, then stand up for yourself? I would imagine you would have got into quite a few fights in there.
There was a few foreigners, right, not many, but I bumped into an Australian guy, called, I don't want to mention his name. Can't stand the fella, to be fair.
I heard that in your book, Billy. You gave him a good spray. You didn't like him.
Yeah. There was two Australians and an Iranian that were, bullying everyone.
Yeah.
And there was an American and an Italian, John and Aldo. They were quite old. I'd say probably my age now, but back then, And they were unfit. They were physically overweight. You know what I mean? They were harmless, but they were getting a hard time verbally off these young Australians.
Yeah.
Me being me, I was listening to this, through the cell, because there's no doors, it's all gates. You can, you can see what's going on. And I said, look, leave it out, turn it in, give them a rest. They're from our own, like, our own culture here. Can you like just take it easy on them? And they were shouting at me, and I was shouting back at them. I was like, what have you seen in the morning to that? Then in the morning, 3 of them surrounded me, and they just went off. I ended up fighting with them all. Gave it as good as it got. Got a good hiding, like, but I stood my ground.
Yeah.
But by doing that, I ended up getting removed from the western part of the prison culture, with the Thais and Westerners mixed, to just a Thai population, which became very difficult then.
Did you, and it would have had to be earned, but did people leave you alone? Did you, everyone's going to take advantage. If there's a weakness in prison, someone's going to swoop on it. Did you hold your own through?
Yeah, They had this name for me for Angbar, which meant crazy foreigner, because I was always fighting.
Okay, that's
I
probably a good
I was,
reputation to carry in there.
yeah, so like, well, just for Angbar, just keep away from him. He's crazy.
Yeah,
And I was very volatile, very reactive,
yeah,
fighting with anyone and everyone, taking drugs, getting in debt. I've witnessed a few horrible things in there, people getting raped.
yeah. There
You
was
know, people,
in the movie. There's a scene, and it's fairly graphic in the way it
graphic,
happens.
yeah,
Someone
yeah.
getting dragged off, but and raped in the toilets or in one of the cells. That would have been fairly frequent in a prison like that, I would imagine.
Yeah, that was a regular occurrence. People committing suicide was another thing. You'd walk past a cell and you'd see, someone hanging off the bars. And what the mad thing was, they used to have like a 24-hour watch in the
Yeah,
cell. So, you'd have an inmate sitting off hour after hour watching the rest of the inmates, because collectively, as a cell, if anyone, died, then you'd get punished. And that was one of the rules. You couldn't commit suicide. You had like, I think it was 10 to 12 rules that they'd shout over the tannoy. No
yeah.
stealing, no sexual intercourse, no suicide. I said, fucking hell, who's going to be asked? Um, so yeah, I found that bizarre. And every morning you'd have to stand to attention to, their national anthem while the flag was being raised.
Did you start to pick up the language? Did you learn the language in there?
Yeah, because I needed medication and I was getting all the wrong medication at the time. And, you know, I was like trying to explain that I needed painkillers and not paracetamol. I needed opiate-based painkillers because I had these injuries.
Yeah,
Plus, they were I was already addicted to opiates anyway, and I was getting high off them. So, it was an added bonus. So I learned to speak Thai, put past a Thai and a cap, and, I learned to speak it, I'd say, like, enough, I'd say fluently in a sense, because I
yeah.
started to read and write it. I
Okay,
started to read and write Thai because I was bored and there was no
yeah.
English literature. So, if there was none of that, I would have read it. I'd, um, I'd read a bit of Thai, which was useless anyway because I didn't understand it as much as I thought I'd like to.
But it started to pick it up. Hey,
Yeah, I picked it up within months.
yeah. I suppose in that environment, it give you an advantage anyway to understand or make life a little bit easier. You
Yeah, well,
talk,
it's more forced on you, isn't it? To learn it.
yeah. Well, you got no option. Um,
Yeah.
you talked about seeing people get sexually assaulted and violence. There was one, and I think it's in one interview that I've read that you did where someone was chased down and just stabbed to death in
Yeah,
front of you. Do you want to just tell us through that story, just to give people an understanding of what we're talking about here? This is a violent world that you're inhabiting in a prison like this.
Yeah, well, what happened is I got transferred from Chiang Mai Central Prison to Bangkok, which is Phnom Penh. I
That's
was
a
on a
worse
den.
reputation, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I had like 18,000 inmates, 18 to 20,000 inmates. It was
Yeah,
a bigger complex.
yeah,
It was a lot more violence. It had southern ties, northern ties, and central ties. It had Muslims in there. They had over 300 different Westerners in there: Australians, Americans, Iranians,
yeah,
Chinese. You had nationalities were quite. There was quite a number of them in there, and most of the nationalities were on this same building as me. So we had 1,000 inmates on this one unit where I was.
yeah,
And I never really got on with foreigners because I just arguing with them, you know what I mean? And never really. So I'd have it with the ties in the end.
yeah,
And I remember, like, we were sitting in the library. It was hot as well. It is always hot. It was 40 degrees every day. You could fry an egg on the pavement. So we'd get a little bit of shade through the day. And I knew there was a few like little gangs there. There was this young lad who used to have a bandana. You'd see him with a bandana, so we stood out.
yeah,
Had his top off a bandana, tattoos all over him. And he'd be running, zigzagging through other people, talking to them. And then he came like running past this library, one afternoon. And he was screaming, and he had these flip-flop sliders on. You could hear him, flopping
yeah.
as he was running. And there was a guy running behind him with a knife. It was quite big. And I thought, well, fucking hell, this is mad, this. Then while he's running, there's a Thai guy come running out from next to me with a chair. One of them metal chairs with wooden seats, like an old school chair. He's come running out and he's whacked this guy with the bandana right across the chest. He's collapsed. This other guy's on him and he starts stabbing him. But it's like, and it wasn't like in a frenzy. It was like cold and calculated, and there were death shots, and he was targeting like his lungs, his neck. You know, they were going in very deep, and you could the inhuman sounds that were coming from the bowels of this man's this man's stomach. It was like it was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was wow. It was frightening, and all I could do was stare. I was just locked in. And a crowd started to form, and it was like about 40, 50 people screaming, calm man, calm man, calm man. And I knew enough Thai at the time to understand what they were saying. They were saying, kill him, kill him, kill him.
Right, encouraging it.
Yeah, just encouraging him. And, you know, he wasn't stopping. The whistle blew. Everyone dispersed, and this body's just left there in a pool of blood, and I'm staring at it. And part of me felt guilty for not intervening, but at the same time, if I did, I'd be lying next to him.
Yeah.
And I replayed that moment vividly in my mind every night whilst I was in my cell in Bangkok. I couldn't sleep. I kept it was just repeating. Like it was like slow motion. It was quite like, you know, like you're in shock and everything's slow motion.
Yeah.
And I just realised how like valuable life was, and how they devalued it. Because the guy who got, you know, caught for stabbing this kid and killing him, he ended up getting 4 years.
Yeah.
Right, for an internal murder.
Pretty cheap, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that was the maximum they could give for, you know, a murder on murder in prison.
Different world. There was another with the gangs in there. I read was the samurais, the HIV infected.
So yeah, the samurais they had the monopoly on the heroin.
Yeah. Okay.
Although they were Thais, I don't know. I never understood why they called themselves samurais, but you know, I just accepted that's what they did. I think they were like that's what they said. They were samurais, yeah.
So what was their go? They were HIV infected and would threaten people with syringes and.
Yeah, they were injecting themselves with makeshift syringes made out of biros. They can improvise. They're very clever. To mainline drugs, they were doing what they could.
Yeah. They
were covered in tattoos from head to toe, but they were very, very like skinny and emancipated. And you know, they were going to the hospital once a week to pick up HIV medication. You know, and I remember getting in debt with them over drugs, over heroin, anything. Again, using, couldn't stop. You know, it was just an escape. And you know, they pulled out a syringe full of blood, threatening with me like with a slow death if I didn't pay this debt.
Yeah.
Pulling condoms out, threatening me with rape. I was subjected to a lot of threats and violent physical abuse, and it was just kind of it was really frightening. It got to a point where I thought, I'm gonna die here. I really am.
Yeah.
And I was getting to a point of total acceptance in this prison where I didn't think I'd ever get out alive. Yeah, that's where I was at one point.
Oh, I don't think it's unreasonable, Billy. You're describing the environment you were in. That's very understandable. And I said at the start, say it throughout. Yeah, I think the human spirit's amazing because the situation you found in, mate, you didn't have much going for you. It would have been easier. The path might have seemed easier. Just okay. Well, if I die here, I get some peace. But you found some degree of salvation and purpose getting back into your fighting in Muay Thai. What happened there?
See, I got into another fight again with a foreigner this time from London. More of me giving him a good hiding, really.
Yeah.
And one of the prison officers, he was quite fond of me, and he said, "Look, you're like the Oscar De La Hoya of this prison." He said, "You're going to end up, dead."
Yeah.
He said, "So I'm going to suggest the boxing, the Muay Thai, the boxing agent that we've got. Get yourself involved." And I'd see them boxing, training every day, and I never had the fitness or the willingness or the fight left. You know what I mean? But at this point, he gave me this suggestion, and I thought, okay. I just thought about it. I went and spoke to, the boxing at Jan, and he kind of refused me entry. And I thought, well, I'm going to go back, and I noticed he smoked a lot of cigarettes, so I bought him a sleeve of cigarettes that I got brought up by the missionaries. They'd buy you cigarettes, and I gave him these cigarettes, and he opened the gate and he let me in. I got a pair of mitts, started it in the bag, and no one would speak to me none of these times, really. They just watched me. They could see they had a few skills. When I went every day and on a daily basis, I started to feel a little bit stronger, a little bit fitter. I was lasting a bit more with my endurance, and then I started to speak to them. The Giants started to speak to me, and I became really friendly with them. They started talking about the Thai New Year and would I get involved in, Muay Thai competition with the best of the best in their prison. And I said, yeah, go on. They moved me into their cell, which is called a Hong Nak Gila, which was the sports cell. And it sounds really, really good, like, sports cell. I thought, okay, you get better food. There's less inmates in there. There's a bit of camaraderie and a bit of unity. And, collectively I felt a little bit safer. So I moved in. And life started to become a little bit better. I was eating well, and I was on a good relationship basis with the rest of these Thai boxers. I had this fight with this guy, and I beat him. And it was just an incredible feeling. It was like, the cheers and the applause and the acceptance I got was like a family unit.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah, they had this sort of like moments of like belonging.
Not just belonging too. You get some respect back about yourself. I would imagine the whole thing, and an environment that you feel comfortable in, and you're respected for the effort that you put in if it's in a boxing gym like that. But it's incredible that what you've been through, and you can look back at this and talk about it. How did it get to the point where, was it a prisoner transfer when you went back to the UK prison? You spent 3 years in Thai prisons, roughly? Was that?
I spent 3 years. I mean, it's not a hell of a long time, but if you look at
hey, Billy, from where I'm sitting and the way you described it, that's a long fucking 3 years. That's
It was. It's not like a long 3 years. I mean, like a day was like, I think I read somewhere that like, a year in a Thai prison, right, was compared to 10 years in a US penitentiary.
Yeah.
And you can look at, like, because it was that austere, it was that barbaric. It was run by inmates, the prison. It was quite volatile and violent, scary. So you were on a fighting, you were on a fighting, like, every day was like a fight. You know what I mean?
You survived. To get through the day and survive is an achievement.
Yeah, because you used to get up in the morning. The reason I call the book a prayer before dawn is because every morning I'd wake up and I'd hear, "Una Sagali na." It was like a hypnotic beat.
Yeah.
Traveling right through the prison, and it was inmates, the Buddhist inmates praying, and then straight after that, you did the Fajr the Islamic calls of prayer.
Yeah.
Right, so you did the Muslims praying and the Buddhists praying, and I was thinking, oh, these people are praying, and then the doors open and you're unleashed into the gates of hell, where it's like market stalls and people living a life like it's like a metropolis.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the fact that I didn't realise that was the basis of the name of the movie in the book, but that makes a lot of sense, and you've created that image very well. I can imagine it. Waking up to that type of.
I just used to wake up. The the sun would be coming through the windows, and it was just before dawn, and I thought the prayers every morning it'd wake me up
Yeah.
with these prayers.
Yeah.
And
Makes
in the
sense.
beginning it was annoying, but then it became sort of like comforting. And then I'd go out, and this is what had happened into the prison system. But yeah, the repatriation was after 3 years. You know, the embassy were coming up on a regular basis. You know, I'd requested a transfer back to the UK. You know, it eventually came, but it was a bit of a tough time. It was 2010,
Yeah.
March 2010, and Bangkok at the time was on fire. You know, people were setting. It was like
Yeah. What was
it was
that?
a
Oh,
blaze.
yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
It was like a political party, the red and the yellows or something.
Yeah.
So people were setting fire to buildings. They were blocking the airports. Bangkok was in uproar. Thailand was a mess. I had this flight date that had been given to me, and it was, I think it was the 27th or something of March, and
Yeah.
that day came, and I'd been excited to go, and it got cancelled because of the airport was surrounded by a political mess of
And
people
protests.
kicking off,
Yeah.
protesters, and my heart fell, and I thought, that's it, they're not sending me back. But then a couple of days later, without any notice, I was called out my cell and taken to reception and put in this. It was quite bizarre, really. I've gone from like this grimy, dirty environment with shorts, because we could only wear shorts and sliders and no top,
Yeah.
into this crisp, gleaming room with a big oval table with these two British prison officers sitting on one side, the prison governor, and me, and a few other prison authorities
Yeah.
sitting there, coming round with tea in china cups. Right?
Your
I'm like,
senses must be overloaded.
yeah, it was like, this is fucking crazy. So I'm sitting there, and they're offering me tea, right, in this china cup and a china saucer, and some kind of sweet biscuits or something, and the sugar and what have you. And I'm like, what's going on here? And this was a handover, because it was a ceremony. Yeah, it was a national. You know, they hand you over to the British authorities. It was a
Right.
ceremony, so you know they make a big song and dance out of, like, passing you on to the British establishments. And you know, I was taken from Phnom Penh to you know, immigration.
Yep.
Stayed in there for like 5 or 6 hours until my flight was due, and it was at midnight, and I was taken to the airport by these two prison officers, and you know, I was handcuffed, and they bought me a McDonald's, and you know, they
Yeah.
felt quite sorry for me, and they're asking me questions. Yeah. I got on a plane, and had a 12-hour journey back to the UK, and you know, it was freezing cold when I got off in March the 31st, 2010, and then I was transferred to Wandsworth Prison, and you know, I was
What
another shock to the system, a culture shock.
did
I was
it?
comparing a lot
Yeah.
of things.
It must have felt like luxury, I would imagine, compared to what you've come from. But I also imagine, to a degree, you're in a mindset that you're still back in Thailand. So
Yeah, and I was still speaking Thai, you know, and I was very submissive. Yes, sir, no, sir, you know, because it'd been beaten into me or drummed into me in Thailand, you know, because you're very, you know, you had to really, like, you couldn't be above the prison officers. You had to lower yourself, you know, you had
yeah, the
to be really,
bowing.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, bowing down, and, you know, everything was sitting on your knees, and you slept on the floor. So when I went into a cell in the UK, and there was a mattress on a bed, I couldn't cope. I had to sleep on the floor.
Oh shit.
I put the mattress on the floor.
Yeah.
I was sleeping on the floor. I was freezing cold, so I was holding onto the pipes. It was, you know, I was coming out the shell, and I was speaking Thai and half English, and kept calling everyone share, and it was just odd. And then they got like a counsellor in to speak to me. You know, he wasn't weird. a carrot, to be fair, you know what I mean? He was asking me silly questions. And I don't know, I was just kind of to adapt back to that kind of culture and that environment was a difficult process. You know, I was listening to people complaining about the chips and the chicken. And I thought, mate, have you just seen what I've been eating?
Yeah.
Right? I've had chicken head soup, still with a mohican on it and an eyeball, and it was stinking. And that's the kind of food I'm eating. And you're complaining about the chips here and the chicken. And I don't like the fish, mate. Not mine. And I was like, it's fucking bizarre. So I spent 8 months. So I done 3 years and 8 months in total, and I spent the 8 months in Wandsworth.
Now, once you were released, where did you write the book? Did you write the book when you were in prison or when you were released from prison?
Yeah, I started writing the book when I was in Thailand, so it was actual factual information because I thought it's here, I can see it and write it down, I'll document it. So I had little notes, and then it came to fruition when I got to Wandsworth. I knew what I was writing, it was memory, it was there, I was physically in that environment. I witnessed a lot of stuff, so I'd write it down, and it was fact. So it became like, chronologically, I had to introduce myself and talk about me backstory and, where it led and the contributing factors and my behaviour and, what changed and how I found myself in these certain situations.
Did you find it cathartic, like going through that, telling the story?
That's very much the word, cathartic. It was very healing. Because if I was speaking to people about it whilst I was in prison and telling them my story, they look at me like with shock horror, like it was like they couldn't identify, they couldn't relate. What? You seen this? You seen someone stabbing himself in the chest, and you were just, it was normal to you. And I was like, yeah, you seen someone, taking themselves hostage, and you seen people, and they were looking at me a bit strange, and I thought, I can't even tell someone a story without them going, yeah, I've had that experience. So I wrote it down. It was very healing, the process. Like you said, cathartic.
Yeah. So when with the book, you've got it published, and then when did the film start to take off? When did people get interested in turning it into a movie?
So that was probably about. So as soon as the book was published, I went about trying to get a documentary or something, because it was. You got to remember, it was before podcasts would take off. You know what I mean? It was in 2011, 2012, and the book was published 2012 initially. Not was really online as much as it is today. So I was touting the book to I remember walking down the street called Hope Street and seeing a little sign saying Hurricane Films in Liverpool. I walked in, they refused to see me. I said, I'll speak to your manager. He said, I'll come back. So I kept coming back. They kept dismissing me. In the end, he said, can you leave your manuscript or your book? And I went, okay. I left it with a few details. And 12 weeks later, he got in touch with me. We're delighted. We want to make this into a movie. We'd like to invite you in to have a chat about it. And that's when I went in, and I was thinking, I thought it might have just been a little homemade, basically, movie or something small or low budget. I wasn't expecting a great director to be involved, a script writer, an up and coming actor from the UK to be, playing the role of myself. It was very exciting.
Looking and getting to know you in this chat now, he nailed you too, that actor, in the movie.
Yeah, he's spent a lot of time with that actor, Joe Cole. Became really friendly with him, still friends with him today. We're still in contact. He understands how I operate.
Yeah,
knows I'm very complex.
Yeah, that's what came across, Billy. That's what came across in the film, and chatting with you now. There's the anger, there's the sadness, there's all the emotions there. He sort of captured it. You could relate to him the way that he portrayed you in the movie. So.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how he portrayed myself, and I believe the time that he spent with me and the method acting he did was spot on.
Yeah. No, he nailed it. So that was
Yeah.
it was featured at Cannes Film Festival. So yeah, we're talking that it was a big deal. It wasn't the local TV station
No,
making
no,
the movie. Yeah,
no. I was in a cinema. It was like one of the biggest cinemas in Europe. Cannes, at Cannes Film Festival. I think it was the 60th annual event. Clint Eastwood was opening the the Cannes Film Festival at that time, and it was just incredible. Red carpet out. Some of the actors from the movie with Joe Cole, myself, the director, and it was just powerful. You know, like at the end, I was watching it, and I'll be serious with you. And I was like cringing watching it, thinking, "Oh, people are going to judge this." And
yeah,
personally, I was like, "Oh, like this is what I done, and you know, no one's going to like it." And I was my own worst critic. But at the end of the movie, there was a ratchet of applause that just went on for 8 minutes. It was a standing
wow,
ovation and cheese, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And I spoke to the American financier who was standing next to me, James Seamus, and I said, "Listen, James," I said, "see these clapping here?" I said, "Do you reckon he liked it?" And he said, "Hey, Billy," he said, we said, "We're in France." He said, "No, I'll tell you this." He said, "The French are the worst critics ever." He said, "Even if you're here, they'll boo you." He said, they love this movie." He said,
yeah,
"You know, if they didn't like it, they'd boo you. They don't care whether you're here or not." He said that, you know, you've done really well. And, you know, the next day in the reports and in all the magazine articles and online, it was like, it was a great success. It was criticised as you know, it was highly criticised as a good cult movie.
yeah.
So I was glad and I was grateful that it was quite accurate.
Look, and so much was happening in your life after that, like what you had been through to get to that point. And yeah, the nature of your story, people would have been wanting to meet you. You would have been the man of the moment in that environment, and that
Yeah.
can be daunting and overwhelming. And I'm sure with all the stuff that you carried from your past, it must have been confronting for you in a way as well.
It was because I was carrying that imposter syndrome. I didn't
Yeah,
believe I belonged in that kind of environment. You know, I was thinking, look, I'm just a crazy mixed up kid from a two-bit town. I've just had this experience, and you know, I've written about it, and now I'm around all these big hitters. They're all in tuxedos. I don't really, you know, feel like I fit in with these type of people. You know, and I just rolled with it, and it was just very difficult to accept like all the affirmation at the time.
yeah,
Um, Knowing as well that like, look, once this day's over, it'll be another day for someone else, and I knew that, so I just kind of just rolled with it, and it was it was really an exciting moment, and it was something I was proud of the achievements,
yeah.
you know, and I didn't want to live in all that shame of my past. I'd like I'd kind of like short redemption,
Well,
and
I think when you tell the story and you're honest, that if you
yeah,
hold shame, but if you're saying, well, this is who I am, you've put it in a book, it's played out in a film, you got nothing to
yeah,
hide. Then this is who I am. Take
no.
me. So I think there must have been that sort of thought going through your mind.
Yeah, it was like, you know, honesty kind of the open honesty is more attractive than trying to like pretend that you've got a big ego and you're not
Yeah,
scared and you're not afraid. You know, you was only using a little bit. Look, you know, I was a drag on society, right? I was a proper mess. I had an impact on everyone's life
yeah,
negatively. You know, I wasn't really like a valuable member of the
yeah,
community, you know, so I was just like, if I went missing, no one would be fucking asked, if you know what I mean. But like now I've come like full circle, you know, and like you said at the beginning, and this is what's important, and I spoke about this today, which is quite strange. You know, it was my cousin who said, he said to me, he said, "You know what, Bill?" He said, "You know, why do you think you're here?" I said, "I don't really know." He said, "You've been through that many near-death experience, overdoses, you know, collisions, you know, stabbings, you've been stabbed, you've been shot at, you know, you've had you know, you've been mauled, you've been through a lot, right?" He said, "Why?" I said, "Someone's got to be looking after you. Someone's got to be like watching over you." Because I'm kind of like skeptical about all that stuff, but I believe there's some kind of intervention. I believe in me for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but now, you know, I know what I do today is is be that role model for people.
Yeah.
Be that person who can nurture others, people. Be that person who can offer guidance and say, look, there's a way out. I've been in recovery now for almost 7 years. I maintain abstinence. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't use, I don't booze. My life today is a far cry from what it was. I was told I could never have kids. I've got 2 bouncing little baby boys now. I've got a loving family. This is something, I'd never believed in a million years I'd have. So it's like I said to you, it's like someone else's life. I could never believe that was my life. It's like, that kid in that film kept making so many mistakes and he had that many chances. I was thinking, I was rooting for him myself.
It's funny you should say that, like your story, and yeah, you've had your setbacks, you step forward, you look like you've made it, you fall back down. I sit there and watch it when I was reading your books or watching the movie. I'm thinking, no, don't go down this path. Don't do that. It's funny. You're sitting there thinking the same thing. Come on, Billy, you can do this. But Billy,
and every time I fell, I was thinking, what's going on? You've had that many chances. Are you stupid?
Yeah.
It was like I was standing over myself, saying, look, get up, lad, and stop it. But it was, you have to fall a few times before you stand up on your own two feet.
Most definitely, and you got to. But yeah, we talk redemption, and I really like pushing that in on this show, redemption, because you get people. I've seen people. We've all been there. You're at this low point. You think, I'm never going to turn this round. And then we see a story like yours, and look, you got 2 kids. You're enjoying life. You've lived a life. But you're still here. So I think there's some motivation and inspiration for people hearing your story. And I think that's why it certainly resonated with me. I'm thinking, shit, who is this bloke? How has he survived? Like, where's that human spirit come from?
I know, because the mad thing was, I was diagnosed with cancer whilst I was on stress.
Yeah, I forgot your cancer story. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
So that was like another hurdle in my life. I mean, I was diagnosed with cancer after my dad passed away from cancer. And I had to, we made amends, me and my dad, the last 10 years of his life,
That's good.
He never really said much, but, at the end of his life, he said he loved me and that was enough. And I believed him. And then I had this kind of acceptance around, maybe, he had his own little battles with his life and, he never really shared much about it. So I had that forgiveness, which kind of gave me a bit of peace. But then I got diagnosed with it, and I ended up with stage 3 cancer, lost all my weight, lost my hair, lost everything, and I thought this is the end, and kind of managed to get through it, so that was another hurdle in my life, and I thought, you know what? And then they said I couldn't have kids, and that's when I said I've got these 2 little boys now, and be careful what you wish for. They're great, like.
How old are they?
Well, one's 4 this week, and one's 11-month-old.
Oh, geez, Billy! And here I am keeping you up to. No wonder you're worried, keeping you up to midnight to do this podcast. I'm sorry, I apologise.
I've got a couple of stepkids as well who are quite a bit older, should be partners. So that's, things are okay, and I work alongside an organisation which is called Weapons Down, Gloves Up, which is, we deal with interventions with young kids and, the gang culture, night crime, county lines, prison and consequences, mental health, addiction. I kind of cover all aspects of. I've got the experience.
Well, you got the life experience, and people like you are people that kids, if they're heading in the wrong direction, listen to. But what was the name of the organisation? Weapons Down, Fists Up.
Weapons Down, Gloves Up.
I like it. That's because we got a bit of a problem over here in Australia, and I know it's you've probably got the same thing in the UK, but with weapons and knives and all that it's something that really tried to steer people away.
Yeah, and I'm under no illusion that we're not going to reach everyone at all. You know what I mean? We can only you can reach a few people. Then that's a ripple effect, and I know the ripple effect because of my ripple effect. Yeah. No, I had a circle of people around me that were like struggling and suffering. Now they're phoning me up and asking me for help. My mum, she brings me up for guidance and support, and that was never on the cards. It was always the door getting shut in my face. Keep away from us. You're making a show of us. You're embarrassing us. Yeah. And now it's not like that whatsoever. quite different. I've got a brother who's got autism, so that was a bit of a struggle growing up, like looking after him as well, and had to smash him. But now he's like my little rock, and you know, I spent a lot of time with him because he had a lot of guilt over just like dismissing him as a young kid.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he wasn't physically handicapped; he was mentally, but he couldn't really verbalise or understand, or he wasn't aware. And he's 45 now, and he's got his complex needs, but he's just a lovable, like, guy that, you know, is very popular now in Liverpool because I put him on my platform.
Yeah.
My platform kind of grew quite big, and, you know, I think there's a 250,000 followers on all of them, and I involve him in my life. I don't shy away from, like, the autism side of things. And I didn't realise how inspiring it was for others to go, okay, I've got a family member. And, you know, I was always worrying that, you know, that he wouldn't be able to talk and he wouldn't be able to be a productive member of society. Now my brother works, you know, and he's, you know, he's worked for 15 years.
That's, see...
He's still got a, yeah.
Stuff like that, and you can make a difference. And I know, you talked about imposter syndrome and, you know, hanging on to the guilt that, you weren't good for society. But, mate, I got to say, sitting here and listening to your story and just getting a sense of who you are, you're putting more good than the bad that you created. So you balance the ledger. I reckon you can, give yourself a bit of leeway. We all make mistakes. It's how we come through it.
Yeah, and I say to myself sometimes, you know what, Bill, like, you give yourself an hard time. You got to, like, give yourself, you know, not like much of a pat on the back, but like acknowledge that the fact that you're not out there committing crime still, right? You're not out there, like, you're not telling your story, but like living a bad life. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure there's people on these platforms that can talk about it, right, but still out there with no integrity. You know, I've done this, I've done that, and then I know for a fact that there's people like that. And I don't want to be one of those people who haven't got the integrity. You know, I want my insides to match my outsides. What I say is what I do. Because I'm in a public, you know, arena now, and I don't want to be seen to be doing.
No, and with that comes a responsibility. But it looks like you're ready to
become
accept
accountable.
That.
Yeah. That's what it is. It gives you the responsibility and accountability.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I think we might wrap it up here, Billy. I've really, really enjoyed the chat, and it's something I say to you. I've been a fan of you because of your story from the moment I saw the movie, and it's I'm really excited I got the opportunity to sit down and have a chat with you. So, all the best for you for the future, and. Thanks for coming on I Catch Killers. Well, I got to say, I love my job hosting I Catch Killers podcast because I've been fascinated with Billy's story ever since I watched his movie, A Prayer Before Dawn. What he survived and how he turned his life around is just amazing. And I think it's a real privilege for me to be able to sit down and have a chat with him. And I got to say, I like the bloke. He's very impressive and, testament to the human spirit that he came through what he came through. And I just think he's a good fella.